Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast may contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, be sure to check out our show on our YouTube channel. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show.
They keep telling everybody that comic book movie fatigue is coming, but not Reviews Without Remorse. I am David, and I am inevitable. And the man who has been blessed with America's ass, Joe.
What's up, partner?
This is episode 115, and in this show we will discuss the only thing to discuss. For Going News this week, we will instead be fully covering Avengers Endgame. How are you, sir?
I am good. It's finally here. Never thought we'd get here, but here we are.
I knew we'd get here. I was just afraid of it. And, well, let's just get to it.
Let's get it on.
God, seems like 1,000 years ago. I fought my way out of that cave. Became Iron Man. Realized I loved you. I know I said no more surprises, but I was really hoping to pull off one last one.
After the devastating events of Avengers Infinity War, the universe is in ruins. With the help of remaining allies, the Avengers assemble once more in order to undo Thanos' actions and restore order to the universe. Written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, based on characters created by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Jim Starlin, and Joe Simon, directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, Avengers Endgame.
It's interesting hearing you say written by, because I'm saying to myself, in reality, it's got to be written by everyone who's ever worked for Marvel Comics.
It's one of the reasons why I went and tried to add as many creators from Marvel in the created by, because originally in the movie they only credit Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I was like, no. Jim Starlin's getting a credit because he created Thanos. And if somebody deserves credit for that, he definitely does. And I included Simon because him with Jack Kirby created Captain America, and I kind of felt like he needed to be called out too.
Yeah. But I mean, again, it's you can't name everybody, but honestly, I here's a little tidbit. I heard that Howard the Duck actually shows up if you look close enough.
I've heard that too. I'm gonna have to see it again just for that alone.
Yeah.
Because this movie is rife with Easter eggs alone.
Oh
or
my
as
God.
some of the negative reviewers refer to it, fan service.
Yeah. This film is plentiful, but my friend, why don't you take us out?
Oh boy. We have a 3-hour running time movie here, so there is a lot to cover. But to speak in generalities before we get into the really heavy major spoiler stuff, this movie does an incredible thing of not only continuing and, in my estimations, completing the story of Infinity War in a successful manner, but it also is a loving tribute to the past 22 movies that we've endured. I was shocked, actually, by some of what people are calling quote-unquote fan service and what I saw as a love letter to everybody who's been watching all these movies. I didn't find anything wrong with any of that. And we'll get into that when we get into the spoilers, but the general gist, Joe, is I went in with interesting expectations and I had them all blown away. I was shocked the direction that they went in with this story. You know, I was kind of right. I kind of called the one part of the plot, but I feel like even just calling that was kind of like an easy guess. Where they went with that was outstanding, I felt. I had a tremendous time with this movie. I got emotional. I can't wait to see it again.
I hear you there. I am also very excited to see this again. And you're right when you say it's a 3-hour-long movie. So, I mean, again, that's why we skipped on news this week. We'll save it for next week because we could do 2 episodes on this movie. Like, we could easily sit here for two hours and probably not get to everything. Just as a general overview, I'll say this. For a film that is literally everything but the kitchen sink.
And it was.
I mean everything. I mean, there is more in this film that I can even, put into words. Plus, you're also throwing elements of a story that I will just say is wildly complicated. I kind of feel like in some respects, the film has committed to the idea that it can't be a perfect film beyond any question and without the slightest plot hole. But they say, so what? We're going for it. And they do. And they do so magnificently that anything I say in terms of questions, thoughts, concerns, they're really it's just commentary on the film. We're just exploring different things. I really don't have a single solitary criticism of this film. They gave us something that is just such a feast. I ran the gamut of emotions almost immediately. I mean, I was just thrilled. This movie is a lot of things to a lot of people. And like you said, it is such a perfect love letter to 10 years of Marvel films that have just been absolutely magnificent. I mean, it's been a way of life, these movies. It's kind of beyond just good movies. I mean, it's become something else entirely. And how do you cap that off? Well, this is how you do it.
It's no longer ours, man. It is no longer ours. I am thrilled, frankly, that if it's no longer ours and if this is the way it's going to be no longer ours, I'm fine with that. I'm thrilled with that.
Yeah.
I couldn't have wanted it better. I really couldn't. It's in exceptional hands. Is it everything I always pictured it would be? No. In many ways, it's better because they've managed to work it out cinematically in a way that just floors me. Yeah. I was stunned. I was stunned by this movie. I agree with you wholeheartedly that the emotions ran from the you know what? We might as well just start getting into the spoiler territory, people. I mean, if you're not one of the people who gave this movie $1.2 billion in global box office this weekend, I'm pretty sure you know what's going on. And if you don't know what's going on, you shouldn't be listening to this podcast. You should be seeing the movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mary, talking to you. Do not listen to this until we see the movie.
All right. Starting from the again, predicted. We both said this. We both said that you just know that Hawkeye's family got snapped, and that's going to be his story. Right. And it opens with that. And yet, it still got me. We knew it was coming, and it got me emotionally.
Yep.
How?
and that was just the beginning. I mean, that was the opening shot, because the one that got me even worse, and again, I kind of probably should have seen it coming, but I was surprised when I got to it, when Ant-Man shows up and goes to his house. I mean, he's scrambling at the memorial looking for his daughter's name. And then he goes to the house, and then when she opens the door, and she's 5 years older, which is substantial when you're talking about a child her age, I kind of went, oh my God. I was already, I mean, when I say this got me emotionally right out of the gate, I'm talking choked up, like already fighting back tears. Like, that's how emotional this was. And again, they're just getting started.
And what a tremendous, man, If you'd have told me that Paul Rudd had dramatic acting range, I would have laughed in your frickin' face.
You know? Yeah.
The way he handled that scene was just outstanding.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Yeah, so again, already the gut punches are coming in, and honestly, I was pretty surprised the way it started off. You know, I wondered when they find where Thanos is and they go and get him. I mean, I kind of almost thought that was even like a slight. It was a little dismissive almost. I mean, I kind of knew even early on at this stage of the film. I'm like, all right, well, you know, we're just getting started. So, you know, that's not the last you're going to see of him. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if that was going to be the last you saw of him. Because, again, I didn't know. You didn't really see Thanos in the trailers. You didn't really see a villain emerging, per se. So, for all I know, this might not have been a battle against Thanos a second time around. I thought there was a good possibility that they just killed him off early on and then went on to correct, you know, what had happened. I mean, that's adventure enough. Right. So I was kind of surprised. I was genuinely surprised about how it started off. And then when you kind of cut to 5 years later, I kind of went, oh, wow, like that happened. Okay. I mean, I was kind of expecting something. We saw different parts of the trailer where like people's hairs had changed and things like that. So you knew some time was going to pass during the film. But I was still sort of taken a little aback when I saw like the 5 years later. Like there was 5 whole years of living with this.
I knew there was going to be a jump. My thing was I didn't expect that opening. I didn't expect them, okay, got Thanos, cut his head off. I was like, whoa!
Yeah, and I was a little confused with it, quite frankly, because I kind of thought like, I mean, again, this guy kicked the Hulk's ass without a lot of help from Infinity Stones, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they were able to sort of just track him down and whoop him, I mean, they basically set it up where he said, you know, it nearly killed me, you know, blowing up the stones.
Yeah, half his face was all messed up and everything like that from blowing up the stones. So
yeah,
you got maybe at best half-powered Thanos. So I'll buy it. I'll absolutely buy it.
Well, again, I'm not. It's not that it didn't seem to work logically. I'm just thinking story-wise, writing-wise. I'm thinking, wow, okay, we're gonna get rid of Thanos early on and get moving. I was like, which again, just sort of a surprise.
A surprise, but a welcome one, as they said in Phantom Menace. I thought it was nice that they kind of... It's kind of like they cleared the deck, but in a way that kind of made sense. Because, yeah, if it kind of occurred to me, it's like, well... And it's the question that I never asked. But when Thanos said, I destroyed them 2 days ago, like, the minute he said it, I was like, well, of course he did. What else does he need him for? And, you know, what if, gosh forbid, anybody ever caught up to him, what if they got it back from him?
Yeah.
So for him, it made sense to do that. So that was like the perfectly logical way to do it,
yeah.
I felt.
And he was very much driven by his plan, not so much the thirst for power. I mean, right. I kind of feel like they made that very clear in the last one. That this was not he did not want a kingdom and followers and worshipers. No, I mean, he had a goal. And that was it. So, right, once he did it, he just wanted to, that's it, I'm done. He got rid of the stones, and he stuck by what he said. So, what do you think he seasons his soup with? Looked like salt, but it just felt like, well, would a Titan like salt? I mean, is salt like the same, like, master ingredient? Because, like, there he is, he picks up those weird-looking fruits, and then he starts seasoning, like, a cauldron of something or other to bring it over to the fire. When the attack happens. And I know that's a weird thing to get stuck on, but in my mind I was like, what is he seasoning it with? I've watched too many cooking shows. So Scott Lang shows up with his theory. Now, I will say that I thought that didn't exactly go the way I was sort of picturing it, because I kind of was thinking, I mean, honestly, I'm going to throw a tiny bit of shade here. I kind of thought, well, for one thing, I think a lot of people were sort of wondering how they're going to fix this. And I think one of the big theories was that they're going to get the time stone from Thanos, and that'll be enough to go back and fix things. But then when you saw Ant-Man and you saw him trapped in the other realm, which, by the way, we don't really know how he gets out of there, which I kind of thought was, huh?
The rat.
The rat?
The rat.
What about the rat?
The car, the van was in storage. And
is that what I was supposed to catch there? Did he walk on the button or something?
He walked on the button and it said, retrieval process begun.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's why there's a ton of memes going around with a picture of a rat saying the real hero of Endgame.
All right, I didn't catch that. I mean, I saw the rat. I didn't put two and two together, but okay.
The rat hit a button on the thing and it caused him to come out.
But honestly, I sort of felt like, okay, he comes out, and and this is probably like a very hair splitting sort of thing, but I don't know. I kind of felt like the story felt more like a classic time travel story. And I'm not even really saying that right, but the way they get around to it, I was really expecting Scott Lang to sort of come in with, this is the quantum realm and we have to go into the quantum realm and come out the other end or something. It almost felt like once he kind of came out and he just sort of threw out the quantum realm something, it was like we handed over to Tony Stark and now he's going to just sort of work on time travel.
Right.
And I got to remember, I was thinking to myself, like, I don't know, I almost felt like they skipped something there. Like the shit, it was almost like a little 3-card Monty. Like I got the quantum realm over here, but now we're just going to hand it off to Tony Stark and he's going to talk about time travel. And it was almost like one of the, like, I've heard it compared to that moment in like Austin Powers 3.
If I travel back to 1969 and I was frozen in 1967, presumably I could go visit my frozen self. But if I'm still frozen in 1967, how could I have been unthawed in the 90s and traveled back to, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed?
I suggest you don't worry about this sort of thing and just enjoy yourself. That goes for you all, too.
Yes.
Like they're questioning time travel and how it works. He goes, well, I suggest you don't think about it and just have a good time. I almost felt like there was a little hint of that in this film.
Yeah, but you know what? They have established that Tony, with his, cause, I mean, even in the Avengers, they had that whole big scene. It's like, well, when did you become an expert on gamma radiation? And he said, last night.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not outside the realm for the genius playboy philanthropist to to be able to pick up on that thread. And he didn't and he poo-pooed it at first too. He was like, no, it's not going to happen. And then he still broke it.
Right. And which to me was almost like, I don't know, it was the tiniest of writing shortcuts. And again, for a 3-hour movie that needs to do a lot, I'm certainly not criticizing it. Like I said in my open, all of this stuff is sort of just observational. It's not even so much criticism. But I did sort of notice that and say, yeah, it was almost like I wanted Tony to have a moment of saying like, you know what? Maybe or something. Because it was almost like if you're going to poo-poo it, then you're not even, it's almost like you're not going to come to the conclusion until you accept the fact that you are looking for something here. And incidentally, as a total side note, when they were kind of sitting around saying to themselves, well, who are we going to get? We need somebody really, really smart to talk to this about.
We need a big brain.
Yeah, we need a big brain. For a split second, I sat there in the theater going, no, they wouldn't pull him in, would they?
You thought Reed Richards, didn't you?
I totally thought Reed Richards. And it was funny, too, and I was talking to my brother about it yesterday, and he had the same thought, too. He had the same... I really wondered. I said, that they could just do it as a quick little cameo, as a little wink, like, look who we got, and then just have him, just a little conversation, and then we go off and we have what we need. But no, it was Tony. But I just had it was like, kind of wondering maybe. But so anyway.
So hey, so how do you feel about the new Hulk?
I sat there in the theater when that happened. First of all, I got like the angel on one shoulder, I got the devil on the other shoulder, and I don't know which one is which. But I swear, one of them is going like, it just threw his arms up and said, "All right, we can officially call this character screw it. It's whatever the hell we need him to be at any moment, and we are not going to tell you why or whatever. The other shoulder is going like, dude, you are never happy. You are never happy because how long have I been saying that I want to get I want to see this crew get to Secret Wars, and to get there you need the Hulk that is the Hulk but with Banner's brain.
Right.
That's exactly what we got, and I'm somehow not happy. Because, again, I'm cranky because I'm saying to myself, they will never get, like, again, this character is just whatever they need at that time. And it's not even the fact that they did it, but it's like, but with no explanation again, like zero explanation as to why, how Banner was able to do it. This is Bruce Banner's lifelong curse, his lifelong struggle to come to terms with the Hulk and how to solve this and cure this and whatever. All of a sudden, we just cut straight to him sitting there chilling out as the Hulk, taking selfies with people, saying "Stay in school, kids" or whatever. I mean,
and
it was almost
dabbing.
like, yeah. I mean, and again, I liked it, but I don't know. It is what it is. Like I said, I admitted to myself, dude, you're just never going to be happy. So just shut up.
Dude, you were the first person I thought of when Professor Hulk showed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's like, I know it. Joe's going to be like both happy and pissed at the same time.
Yeah, totally. That was exactly it. I mean, and honestly, I kind of said to myself, all right, wait. Why does he have Mark Ruffalo's voice? Well, first of all, honestly, I was kind of, and I think if I recall, that this specific, when you said Professor Hulk, he actually isn't this specific version of the Hulk. He's a little less strong than the actual Hulk.
Yes, if you look at the Hulk compared to when he's normally the Hulk, he's actually a good foot shorter than the other Hulk. So he's not as physically powerful.
Right, and he literally looks like Mark Ruffalo with just a little greener.
A bigger, greener Mark Ruffalo, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of right. He didn't seem nearly as just massive as he is, and I mean, even when they go back to the Avengers and they show the other Hulk doing stuff, they look different. So, I thought it was interesting. I really was saying to myself, but why he should sound like the Hulk though? I can't see if he's that big, his voice should go down. I kind of felt like you shouldn't just give him Mark Ruffalo's voice. You should at least lower that voice a little bit.
Yeah, he was, what are you gonna do?
Right. It is what it is, Joe. Move on.
At this point, we had time traveling Paul Rudd turning into a baby into an old man.
Right, yeah, which was great, by the way. He goes. I love when he goes, somebody peed my pants. I don't know if it was baby me or old me or just me.
Oh, he's got such great comedic timing.
He really does.
This is a movie of character arcs. If you throw these two movies together, or in fact the entire series together, it's a bunch of character arcs. Hell, even frickin' Hawkeye, who really hasn't had much of his day in the sun, got his arc in this movie. I'm gonna focus. We're gonna say, if it's all right with you, dude, I'd like to focus it on Black Widow, Hawkeye, Thor, Cap, and then Tony in discussing the movie arcs. Is that a good idea?
Sure.
Okay, so we've got Hawkeye and Black Widow, and I love how in this movie the positions are reversed compared to how it was alleged that they met. She was an assassin. Barton is the one that saved her and brought her into the fold. And now here it is the other way around. Now Barton's the assassin, and Natasha has to try to bring him back into the fold.
Right. Okay. I like that.
I loved that juxtaposition. I loved that, and seriously, serious spoilers here, that on Vormir, I loved that the two of them fought to jump off of the mountain.
Yeah.
And it just, such great characterization. And yet, a part of me was like, no, I didn't want either of them to jump, to be honest with you, but in my head, in the poetry, it made sense for Natasha to be the one to sacrifice herself. Because he put his life on the line to bring her to the side of good. And he has a family. He has something to go back to.
Yeah.
Okay, this is her. What does she talk about? She's got a lot of red on her journal. This completely pays that back, and there's her character arc right there.
Yeah.
It makes me more excited for the Black Widow movie.
Well, it makes me more confused about the Black Widow movie, but
because it's a prequel. It takes place before the Avengers.
Well, yeah, but even still, I kind of feel like if you, it in my mind, it will take a level of excitement away, knowing that this character will go on to. You've already seen her death. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but my initial thought is that detracts a little bit from her movie. Assuming she gets a full-blown solo film, it's probably going to be an origin story or something. It'll probably be just fine. I don't know. I wonder, like knowing that ultimate end, does that detract a little bit?
It depends upon how they tell the story,
I suppose.
or what kind of story they tell.
Yeah.
I mean, if you in the right hands, there's no reason a prequel couldn't work. And to be perfectly honest with you, with the way Marvel's been doing things lately, I'm gonna err on the side of they'll figure it out.
Right. That's a good point. But I agree with you. I thought the whole back and forth with them was terrific. I loved how and it kept you guessing. It really did, because either one of them was very willing to be the one. And honestly, I thought at that moment it could have gone either way. So, I kind of felt like at the last second, I was guessing right up until the moment. Although I will say I was dumb enough to, total side note, I was watching the James Bond, they did a press announcement on Thursday over YouTube.
Right.
Couple creeps in the chat section decided to throw out a couple spoilers, but I kind of didn't really affect me either way, because I thought people could just be spewing out nonsense, either way. They could be saying it because it's true. They could be saying it because it's not true to be funny. So I kind of just took it as whatever. But
was this one of the spoilers?
Yeah, some things were said about it. But honestly, I sort of put it out of my head and honestly thought it could go either way, so I didn't really care either way. But
well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I managed to remain completely spoiler free. I'm so impressed with myself.
I did too. I honestly managed to stay 99.99% spoiler free. So yeah, I thought this scene was done very well.
Yeah, it was a tough scene. I mean, I don't give Scarlett Johansson a lot of credit. I felt that her delivery there at the end of asking Clint to let her go was wonderfully powerful. I thought it was like maybe the best acting she's done so far.
Yeah.
Her it was like the way she said it was like she was begging him to let her clear her debt. That's how I took it, the way she was begging.
Yeah.
And I was moved by that scene. That was one of the first of many scenes that I was moved by in this movie. And
Agreed.
There's a frick ton. Thor got an interesting arc now, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm kind of I was sort of lukewarm when I got to Fat Thor. I mean, honestly, it wasn't even just fat. I mean, when he sat down, he looked like Fat Bastard from Austin Powers. The man boobs were just gigantic. I was like, okay. And then I did very much like the emotional Thor that we got. I liked the whole, his whole thing on Asgard and seeing his mother. And
that
knowing
was so well done.
Yes. Knowing this was the day she is killed, I was like, wow, that's rough. And and of all people to slap you in the face and go, snap out of it. It's Rocket Raccoon. All right.
I like them as a pair. I hope that him going off in the Benatar. By the way, that's the name of the new spaceship. It's called the Benatar after Pat Benatar. I hope that him going off in the Benatar means that we're going to see him in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. What do you think the chances are?
I would say 100% at this point, frankly.
I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, I same here. I kind of feel like that seems to be the plan, if I had to take a guess. I mean, they've committed to doing a Guardians 3, and again, Thor did not, they didn't close his character down by any stretch.
No.
So, you know what? Maybe he'll lose the gut, keep the dreads. Who knows? I had to crack up when somebody called him Lebowski.
That was Tony, of course.
Yeah.
He called him Lebowski.
All right,
He
Lebowski. He really did look like him, too. It was pretty funny.
All right.
Okay, here's a question, though.
Yes.
When we meet Thor, we also meet Grog and the other little guy.
Korg and Meek.
Yeah, and then we also meet Valkyrie.
Yes.
So where were they?
It was spoken in passing in the first movie that Thanos killed half my people.
Right.
So,
but didn't they blow up the ship, implying that everyone else was killed too?
that's what I thought, but obviously something must have happened in order to move the people off the ship at some point. Maybe they abandoned ship. Maybe there was an emergency escape pod. Maybe that's what Korg and Valkyrie were doing. They don't really explain. It's not very well explained. I will grant you that.
Yeah.
But
I was very surprised when we saw them again, because I specifically thought that every other Asgardian was killed. I thought Thor was the last one.
Nope, not yet. Not completely.
No.
This is Thanos we're talking about. He only wanted half.
Yeah,
he took the half that defended the ship while I'm assuming the families and the elderly were moved off the ship by Valkyrie and Korg.
Yeah.
Played again by Taika Waititi, wearing one of his famous Hawaiian shirts.
Nice. I think when they go forward, which obviously I think they will, they should probably explain that at some point. But yeah,
I hope so.
That was one of the ones I kind of walked. I go, no, whoa, wait.
Some people move on, but not us. Not us.
But again, I very much enjoyed Thor, and I kind of thought the him deciding to tag along with the Guardians of the Galaxy was pretty cool.
Yep. And now we also know what the plot's going to be, obviously, since 2014 Gamora has disappeared.
Yeah, now I lost track of her too, and I was sort of wondering, like, well, wait a second, did we get her? Do we get her back? Is what I was wondering.
We didn't. No. It's the creation of a Soul Stone is eternal, so there's no getting her back once the Soul Stone is created.
Yeah, but why can't you grab her from the past? In fact, I mean, basically, see, this is interesting because they sort of specifically said, like, they went to the trouble to say that Black Widow is not coming back because that's how it works. And everyone was saying, like, even Thor, duh, we have a time machine. You just go back in time and grab her. And they were swearing up and down that's not how it works. But that is essentially how they contact, they basically reach Gamora in the past. So what's to say at that point that you can't just sort of say, hey, Gamora, jump in this ship and come back with us because we'll tell you about it later, but you just come with us.
Tell her about it later.
And you skip over that whole thing when you got thrown down. I mean, it still happened in another parallel something or other. So, but again, I'm watching that scene, saying to myself, all right, it almost sort of conflicted with exactly what they were hitting home with Black Widow.
Yeah, but this is a little bit different though, because now first of all, the stones have been returned, and we'll get to discussing that in a couple of minutes. So there's no really getting it back from that. And technically speaking, there is a Gamora. It's just not the Gamora that we know. It's an earlier edition of Gamora.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So why? So what are you gonna do? You're gonna erase that Gamora just so you can get your Gamora back, or if that's even possible? I don't think that's possible. No. I think that's kind of like a closed loop.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, you're getting what I'm saying, right? I mean, they literally in this film go back and there's Gamora standing right there. And apparently you can swap people out, by the way, because he was able to send the other, the sister, whose name is
Nebula.
He was able to send the Nebula from that time back to our time and swap out, those two. She was essentially the spy. So, why couldn't you just send Gamora into our time?
Because I don't know, dude. The Basil exposition. What was that line again?
Yeah.
I suggest you don't worry about this sort of thing and just enjoy yourself.
See, can I tell you something? Anytime you're dealing with time travel movies, I specifically remember for every Back to the Future, my brothers and I would be standing around for hours afterwards talking about the complexities of this and that and how time travel works or whatever. So, and by the way, I love the throwaway line in this one going like, you mean Back to the Future was a bunch of bullshit?
So it's Time Cop, Terminator, all of them.
Right. I think they threw everyone. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Hot Tub Time Machine.
I loved it when Cheadle and Paul Rudd both basically said Hot Tub Time Machine at the same time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It was funny.
But yeah, no, there's that. There is. It's dicey. I admit, but hell, I've got even bigger questions, which brings me to the next story arc.
God.
Let's talk about Steven Rogers. I'm glad he's not dead, but man, what an end for him.
Yeah,
I felt, except for one tiny little thing. We'll get into the details for a second. I just gotta go off on this tangent for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay. I want a 6-episode TV series showing Steve Rogers returning each of the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
I want that because for two reasons. Number one, I want to see him when he gets to Vormir with Red Skull there.
Right, yeah.
And number two, how the hell did he rebuild the Tesseract? The Space Stone, dude.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm with you.
They have to crack that cube in order to get the Space Stone out. How did he rebuild that?
Maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's just, I don't know. Does it have to be the actual Tesseract? Does it have to have a casing?
I don't know. That's the question that I want to know.
Yeah.
It doesn't ruin the movie for me or anything like that, but it is definitely the first question that popped in my head.
I'll give you one better since I was already harping on it. What about the Soul Stone? How do you put the Soul Stone back? I mean, and maybe once you do put it back, maybe you get the souls back. Maybe you go back to Red. Maybe you go back to Red Skull and say, "Here, I don't want it anymore. Now I want my souls back." I don't know. Just a thought.
That would be interesting. But how would he get? Then again, how would he get Natasha off of the planet? If that were possible. There's so many questions. I want this 6-episode series now.
I mean, they literally could probably just go back and think about all the different possible ramifications of this film and come up with a whole nother one. Frankly, if they so chose.
Easily, I think this movie could have been 4 hours, and I probably still would have had questions.
Oh my God, sure. No, but these are all good points. But yeah, but getting back to, I have to say again, like I said, I don't think there was a moment in this film where I was not, it got me by the heartstrings at every turn.
Yeah.
That just having the film close out on him and Peggy, oh my God, was that great.
Crying over that.
Gosh. Put it this way, I know for a fact that when my girlfriend and I go to see this film, I will look at her when that's happening, and I guarantee the tears will be streaming. That'll be the one that gets her, I'm sure.
Only that? I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of emotional
There'll be
moments.
plenty, but that one for sure will get her.
God, and I just felt it was so appropriate. And by the way,
it really was.
Bucky knew
that
Bucky
Falcon
knew
was going to get.
Bucky knew that Cap wasn't coming back because he said goodbye to him.
Yeah,
he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't say see you in a couple of minutes, Steve. He said goodbye. So I think Steve told him what he was planning on doing, and that's why Bucky sent Falcon to see old Cap.
Mm.
That's my personal feeling.
And that was a very interesting moment as well, because I think a lot of people would have taken a look at that and said, well, wait a second, why didn't Bucky go over? Or why didn't Bucky But you're right. There was sort of like Bucky. You're right. I think Bucky kind of knew what was sort of going on, and said, "Falcon, you take this one." Because again, I mean, it's interesting too because I remember walking away from that thinking, well, I think both the Falcon and Bucky took the Captain America mantle in the comics at one point.
Right. But Bucky was extremely reluctant, and when Cap came back, he was like, "Just dude, no, don't want this. It's not me."
Yeah, and I think when you think in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there ain't no way Bucky. Half of the world thinks of him as a terrorist, so you can't have him do it. So yeah, I think having Sam do it made a lot more sense.
And that's how we're getting our Winter Soldier and Falcon TV show, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I will tell you one thing about this film that kind of there's a big part of me that is sad to see this end, even though I know very well that I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe has a long way to go, and they're going to keep going strong, and there's going to be a lot more films, and even the way a lot of these plot lines ended up basically tells you where they're going to go. My problem is it's going to start moving into areas that I don't remember or don't know from the comics. I know that there was like Sam was Captain America for a while. I know that there was
he still is.
Okay. I mean, and so we're kind of like, I feel like most of the Marvel characters that I know are shutting down, and now we're moving into like a generation of comics that I wasn't around for.
You got to trust the system at this point, man.
Yeah.
They're taking us this far.
Sure.
You kind of have to trust the system at this point.
I do.
And
honestly,
they're going to be good. I'm looking forward to Anthony Mackie's portrayal as the new Cap, Falc Cap or however, or Cap Falc. Or Capcom. I have no idea how. I think Capcom was a famous one, and then I was like, wait, isn't that a video game company? But anyway, whatever the case may be, I look forward to where it's going. I felt like it was a great send off for Steve. But you know what's funny is, in a beautiful way, they also still left it open.
You talk about Captain America specifically?
Oh, yeah. Steve Rogers could always come back.
Sort of.
Oh, no, dude. They demonstrated it. They demonstrated it. The scene where they got old Scott Lang and young Scott Lang. You don't think they could put old Steve Rogers in the little time machine and have him come out young again?
Well, yeah. They... I don't know.
Would they?
I'm not
I don't
sure.
think they would, but they could. It's a possibility.
Well, I suppose you could always at any time go back in time and say, I need you to come with me, and they can, sure. So that I suppose is always a possibility. But I thought one of the reason why I thought that ending was just so genius and so fitting was because it was probably the only circumstance that Steve Rogers would have said to himself, I can literally now take a break. Because basically he's going back, and anything he does in the past will alter the time going forward. And he's saying to himself, if I meddle at all, it could totally undo what we just did to fix things. So he probably has a perfectly good out. I not only should I not get involved, I can't get involved because I could change the future. I could unravel all the things that we just accomplished by fixing, where we are. Like, I mean, he's basically at that spot in, the way reality is right now. It's fixed. So if I tinker, I could undo it. So it was literally the only way that Captain America will take a day off, if you get what I'm saying.
Or in this case, 70 years off.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad he got a good ending.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, honestly, it really was kind of genius. And honestly, I really did throughout this whole film. Just there was so many times I'm saying to myself, "Wow, this was just genius." Wow, the way they kind of made this work was just. I mean, again, to take all of what they took and to weave it so perfectly well, I was just sort of blown away.
You and me both, man. And I just need to put out an extra shout out. 2 shout outs for the character of Captain America. The moment he picked up Mjolnir,
Yeah. Oh my God.
and the biggest moment of all, the one I've been waiting 11 years for, Avengers Assemble.
Right? Thank you.
Brother, was that a hell of an Avengers Assemble?
Oh my God. We should talk about when they actually go back to the original Avengers film, by the way, because again, I feel like as much as I want to keep talking about the characters and how their arcs worked and everything, I feel like there were whole scenes that we might overlook if we don't.
The elevator. What so brilliantly shot, because same directors, of course, so of course they knew their shots and everything like that. Here we are thinking to ourselves, oh my God, elevator fight 2.0, cut off.
Oh,
Hail
yes,
Hydra.
yes, absolutely right. There were so many of those little nods to things that we had seen previously that when the elevator fills up, I get right, exactly. Your brain went to, they're gonna have another elevator fight, and sure, I thought for sure Cap was right about to say, "Anybody want to get out?" Here's, but he didn't. I that was great the way they did that.
That was really, really great. The fight between Cap and himself, I kind of enjoyed, right down to him admiring America's ass.
Right. That is America's ass. That was great.
What was your moment? What was the one that got you?
In which respect?
In New York, in the New York one, you wanted to bring that one up. I was curious.
Just that I thought the whole thing was great. I mean, it was fun. I mean, the whole kind of like the Hulk looking at himself fighting, and I mean,
smash,
right,
smash.
and he's kind of like he's just kind of holding his head like he's embarrassed by the whole thing. And he's like, okay, break stuff, whatever. Yeah. That was pretty great. I mean, I loved how they sort of, and I've heard people say that they Back to the Future 2, the whole thing, where because they were doing time travel, they were able to go back into certain things that you'd seen in previous films, and I thought that part, by going back to the first Avengers, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And again, it was very, I mean, it was very interesting the way I loved how they were sitting there contemplating, like when they first figured out that they can do time travel, then they had to do the plan of attack and figure out, well, where do we go? How do we do this? And when she says, if you time this right, New York has 3 Infinity Stones at the exact same time. Yep. And it was like, oh yeah, okay. So I thought that was pretty cool. And by the way, then when the Hulk goes to see the Sorcerer Supreme was pretty interesting too.
I love that. When I saw that they had freaking Tilda Swinton back, I was kind of happy with that.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of felt like this was, I mean, they really got just everyone back into this one. I mean, even when you watched Infinity Wars, it's funny because you were sitting there kind of thinking like, oh yeah, well, who's missing? Well, Ant-Man is missing and Hawkeye's missing. So I guess they'll be back or whatever. But you really didn't even stop to think about all the other peripheral characters that could have been in it. And this one had all of them. I mean, I felt like anybody I could think of was in this film.
I think I'd like to say everybody, but because it definitely feels like they got everybody. But yeah, no, this was the.
I mean, they had Tilda Swinton's character, Robert Redford's character. I mean, and then you get to the funeral part, which we'll get to. I mean, there's like everybody's over there, and you say, yeah. I mean, there wasn't a soul left that I think Tony ever bumped into that wasn't there. Were you one of the people at the funeral scene that knew who that kid standing alone was? I had no idea. I heard later, but no, I had no clue who that was.
I knew who it was. I was
right?
I was surprised. I when I saw him, I was like, who? And then it just kind of dawned on me. So we'll get to that because we still have to do Mr. Stark's arc.
Yeah. Which we can get to whenever you're ready.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What was it Cap said? You're not the type of guy to do the big sacrifice. You're not the type of guy to lay on the wire to let somebody else cross. Well, don't we know different now?
Right.
So, when did you figure out this was it for Tony Stark? Because for me, it was Doctor Strange catches his eye and holds up one finger. When he did that, I put my hand to my mouth and I knew what was coming. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I was like, this is where Stark dies. The minute he did that, that's the first thing that popped in my head.
Yeah, I mean, well, I didn't know that they were going to kill him. I really was not sure. And I feel like for the last year plus, I think there's always been speculation about how they're going to end this phase and who's going to live, who's going to die, whose contracts are up, that sort of thing. Yeah, so I wasn't really sure. I was not positive, even when it actually happened. I did not know if they were going to revive him and let him just retire or whatever. So I honestly was not sure. And even that moment, honestly, when Doctor Strange held up the finger, I was getting and it was great too, by the way, because when Hulk was having the conversation with Tilda Swinton, it refreshed your memory a little bit, that he said that there was only one way this was going to work and yada, yada. So when they had that moment, when their eyes connected, it definitely brought me back to the whole, there's only one scenario where this actually works. But that didn't necessarily give me a clue as to how Tony was supposed to react to that. It was almost like he had some, it was almost like there was like some little wake up call in his mind saying, okay, that's a signal to do something. So the way he actually went over and did it and basically sort of snuck the stones out, put it in his own thing. Okay. I mean, I thought it worked great, but I didn't see it coming is what I'm trying to get around to. So I was still pretty surprised that they went there.
Oh, and this was after that extremely emotional reunion with Cap at the beginning where he berates him and finalizes it with liar. And what a freaking delivery on the part of RDJ in that scene, man. Like, just, chills. Chills thinking about that.
Yeah. I was actually kind of surprised, honestly, when that happened. I when they met each other and they were still sort of arguing, I was a little surprised by that because I kind of thought, boy, Tony could really hold a grudge.
I likened it to he just got rescued, hadn't had food and water for a couple of days, watched somebody who he took responsibility for die in front of him and everything like that. And at that point, I think his emotions, and he was still physically ill, were so frayed that he latched on to the first person that he can get his hands on that wasn't Thanos. And Steve was like the proxy. That's the way I took that. I didn't take that as personal because he was, the next time they see each other, he was much cordial, much more cordial to him. And then even said that, resentment is not the way I want to live my life at one point.
Right.
So, it was just Tony at a weak moment, probably his weakest moment. That was what I thought was like the brilliance of it. And in weirdly paralleling to how Steve used to be. You see how skinny they made him and malnourished they made him look?
Yeah. So that was pretty impressive. Yeah, I agree with you.
It's like subtle. It took me a moment to even realize, like, did Robert Downey Jr. lose weight? It's like, no, they freaking CGI'd him down. Damn.
Yeah, he did look. He looked bad. That was well done. Yeah,
so I just took it as, the culmination of the loss and, exhausted, dehydrated. I mean, he was still getting an IV, for God's sakes, when they were questioning him. Might have wanted to let the poor guy rest first. But after 10 movies, the guy who, made fun of, peace, without peace, I wouldn't be rich, to technologically stealing stones, I am Iron Man, snap.
Yeah. That was, and that was, I will say this, and again, like I said, I mean, these are just observations, they're not criticisms, but I did sort of say to myself, I kind of feel like I've always had a slight bit of resentment in a way that the character of Iron Man has sort of unofficially become the father of the MCU. And it's almost like, it's almost like there's a part of me that just feels like, just because Iron Man was the first MCU movie to really, take hold, the first one yes, I mean, I could just leave it at that. I mean, chronologically, it's the first, but it's still the first one that was as popular. You know, it had that big popularity, meaning like the Hulk came out a couple months later, but I don't think that did anything to ensure an MCU. You know, and I mean, it was very popular. It was still the first one, and I almost felt like it's almost more of a technicality that that's true. Like Captain America could have been the first movie, and then he would have been sort of the it's almost like now like Iron Man sort of gets these moments because the character is real popular and not because he should be the guy to sacrifice himself. I kind of feel like that was probably a Captain America moment, and not saying that he didn't get his own, but that's kind of a moment that I feel like Captain America maybe should have gotten. Instead, Tony sort of got it.
You know, from a comics perspective,
had the same feeling in the first Avengers. By the way, like he's the one that goes after the nuke.
From a comic book perspective, you're absolutely correct. He's really not supposed to be the leader. It was always supposed to be Cap, but this is the way the movies went, and they took what came before and utilized it as a means of storytelling and emotional manipulation is the best way of saying it.
Sure.
And it is. I mean, you know, I'll be the first to admit, I'm sure to the general public, to anybody outside of the comic world, they'll be like, well, you know, this was good, but I don't see what the big deal is. To me, this was just, you know, the culmination of so many years. I mean, I'm biased. I'm absolutely biased when it comes to this movie. I'll be the first to admit it.
Yeah.
And I just felt that if you're gonna tell the story, once it's established that Tony Stark is the beginning of the cinematic universe, it's not like you can just retroactive that as much as people would like. You know, you can't. Even Captain Marvel. I mean, yes, Captain America came before all of them, and he should have been the de facto leader. But even Captain Marvel, who now technically was quote unquote before Tony Stark chronologically, she still doesn't count. And I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the character or anything like that. Tony Stark started this, and if you just fail to acknowledge that, then you're basically ignoring the audience that has brought you along all this time. You have to give this character an appropriate send-off, especially since Downey has said, look, I'm getting a little too old for this. Can we, you know, figure out what to do with this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I in the comic books, absolutely, I'd agree with you. But in this cinematic universe, it works. You know, right down to, for God's sakes, Joe, tell me you didn't get caught up when Tony saw Peter and Peter's explaining what happened and instead he just hugged him. Tell me you didn't.
Oh my God. That was great. That really was. That was something else.
And that's the whole point. You know, because of the nature of the way the movies happened, he did become the center of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And to his credit, Downey Jr., you know, relished that role and worked it in himself. Didn't grandstand, definitely didn't try to take away from anybody else, definitely didn't make it seem like it's always got to be about me. So this being his literal swan song, I don't begrudge it. I don't begrudge it at all. And even though I kind of sort of thought it was coming, it still hurt. It still crushed me when he passed.
Yeah, and listen, I'm agreeing with you 1,000%. Everything you're saying is exactly 100% correct. And you are right that it is just sort of an anomaly of the cinematic version of the Marvel comics. Right. Yeah. So, and again, I'm certainly not knocking the film. Like I said, it's just another observation. Kind of in the back of my mind, I've always sort of felt this way. That but yeah, it absolutely positively worked. And again, this film is like you said in the beginning, it is a love letter to 10 years of Marvel films. And so how do you not? I mean, even the moment when he said, you know, his last words were, "I am Iron Man," you know, I kind of thought like, okay, I mean, it makes sense. I get it from a cinematic standpoint. Odd to me a little. You know, these are. It was almost. I almost felt like I wouldn't have even minded if he said, "I'm Iron Man, bitch," or something like that. Like if he just tweaked it a little bit, I would have been fine with that. You know, again, there were slight little moments of the film that made me kind of come out and realize that this is a, there are cinematic reasons for things happening as opposed to story reasons, which again, like I said in the very beginning, I am totally fine with it because again, the sum total is just too good to, take away and say, there's a moment in Skyfall. This is going to be like, you're like, where are you going with this? Skyfall, when James Bond has the DB5 and he actually fires the guns out of the front of the headlights. Mm-hmm. And if you've been following the Craig movies, Daniel Craig's version of James Bond won that car in a card game in the Bahamas in Casino Royale.
Right.
So technically that should not have happened, but it's just such a great moment that even like the most hardcore Bond fans are like, screw it. It's too good to even nitpick. And I kind of feel like there's sort of moments like that in this film where like that, logically I might have problems with it, but honestly, it's such a good tribute cinematically that I'm just not even going to nitpick it.
Thanos did exactly what he said he was going to do. He wiped out 50% of all living creatures.
We lost, all of us. We lost friends, we lost family, we lost a part of ourselves. This is the fight of our lives.
This is gonna work, Steve.
I know it is. Because I don't know what I'm going to do if it doesn't.
But can you give it a number?
Who am I gonna go first?
I'm letting you go first this week.
All right. I thought maybe you were gonna sway me because I am literally. I'll just say I have been since I walked out of the theater back and forth between a 9 and a 10. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of me that like. Even if I give it a 9, it's a 9.8, 9.9, and I kind of feel like I said in the beginning, the film, it knows very well it's going to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, up on screen, and throw in a time travel story where all kinds of logic gets tossed around, and even the most perfect of time travel films. It's so hard to do this in a way that is just above all reproach, where there's no part of you saying, well, why didn't you do this then? Or why didn't you do that then? So I kind of felt like this film already committed to the idea that we're not doing Shakespeare here. We're not doing Citizen Kane. We're not doing, a flawless story. We're doing something that is just going to be a goodie bag for everyone. It's going to be a feast. It's going to be appetizer, main course, dessert, all rolled into one, and it just is what it is. So we're going to just accept the flaws that are inherent to this kind of storytelling. So yeah, in that respect, I want to give it a 9 and just say this was a magnificent, ball of yarn. It's fun times 1,000, whatever. There's the other part of me that's like, don't be a dick. Give it a 10. And I can't even, what I'm saying? It's just a matter of, I don't know. But you know what? I think I'm going to go on record and just give it a 10. Because I, honest to God, sat there and I just loved every minute of this film. And I'll even do you one better because I remember, when we did the Infinity War, and I said, as we were talking about it, saying, I can't believe I'm going to give this an 8. Because this was such a magnificent piece of cinema, but again, it's part of a story that ends on a downer, and there's no real conclusions to anything. So how the hell am I going to give it higher than whatever? And I kind of felt like, literally, as I was watching this, I'm like, this is the answer to everything I said for Infinity War. I said it's imperfect, that film. By its own nature. And I remember nitpicking, saying, I wish they called it part 1 because then I can justify giving it a 10. But again, here were the answers to all the things that they set up in that one. And I thought you really could not have asked for more. This movie could have been 4 hours, and I probably would have still loved every minute of it. So
your bladder might not have.
What's that?
Your bladder
Probably,
might
yeah.
not have.
I tried my best to empty myself out before this started. So yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna give it a 10. I know it's not a perfect film in terms of story, but it's just too much fun.
As the culmination of 22 movies and 11 years of films, the fact that it managed to tell a story, imperfect or not, tell a story, honor the past, be hopeful for the future, give Stan Lee, an inadvertent final send-off that he definitely would have gotten behind, the whole make love not war.
Yeah.
I'm sure that after 6 months distance from now, you and I can revisit it and might get a little buyer's remorse with our scores. But who the hell cares right now, man? This is about initial impressions.
Yeah.
This movie had so many expectations in my mind that it met. So many expectations that it went above and beyond what I thought it could have been. That how could I not give it a 10? I had a hell of a time. It pulled me in. It pulled me by the heartstrings. It pulled me as a comic fan. It pulled me as a movie fan. Movies are magic. I have made this analogy a couple of times before. And Marvel movies are it's like if in a world of magicians, if the greatest modern day magician is David Copperfield, the Marvel movies are the David Copperfields of movies. Okay? The Deadpools are the Penn and Teller of movies.
There you go.
I think that's a rather apt description. But
I would agree.
But you can say what you want about David Copperfield, what you think about him personally. I've seen him perform live. The man is not only a hell of a showman, but he actually can do some tricks that will make you think for quite a while, how did he do that? You eventually figure it out, but at the moment, these movies capture magic, and they spill it on the screen for you, and they take you along for the ride, and they make you believe for the briefest of moments that magic is possible. The Marvel movies just figured it out, and they got to give props to all the people, the directors that have come before and stuff like that. You got to give top props to Marcus and McFeely and the Russo brothers for basically doing the last 5 of the biggest movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah. These guys are now the first directors to have 3 movies make over $1 billion at the box office.
Wow.
3. They're the only directors ever. So, hey, guys, your careers are set.
I would agree with that. It's funny, actually. One of the amazing things about this film, honestly, it was funny because I was talking to my girlfriend just the other day, and it's funny because she's been asking me. She was away this weekend, so I saw it by myself. Otherwise we definitely would have seen it together.
Of course.
So of course she gets back and she goes, "So how was the movie?" And I'm just all I kept saying was, "It's fine. You'll see it." Because I don't even want to crack a smile in front of her. I just want the whole thing to be a surprise when she sees it. So I don't want to say anything. But then she said something about she goes, "Yeah, I probably should watch Infinity War again before we go see it." And honestly, as I was watching the film, I was thinking to myself, you really have to brush up on all of them.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think there are references to almost every single film in this that it does not require. If you don't remember them perfectly well, I don't think it's going to, sideline your enjoyment. But honestly, I really did watch this saying boy, this really does. It really relies on your knowledge of all of the films.
Down to the kid at the funeral who was in Iron Man 3.
There you go. Down to your least favorite Marvel movie, the Lost World or whatever, the Dark World.
Yep, needed that too. And brother, did you need that scene? Oh my God!
Right?
Oh, Frigga, it was so nice to see her again.
Yeah.
All right, well, we both gave it a 10, so much for asking who asked you. Instead, for your
but I have one.
You got one. Whoa, we're breaking tradition.
You know what? I kind of forgot about it as I was doing it, but no, I did prepare one.
Oh, dude, I'm not going to stop you. Hit me.
I'll keep it quick. The class photo.
The class photo.
When Captain Marvel says something or other, and then they all go, "She has help." And all of the female superheroes are all lined up for a postcard.
Honestly,
and yes, I'm going to be that guy to mention it. But honestly, again, and I won't harp on it, I promise. But it's like everything else. I don't understand why. It's almost like as soon as you start doing this kind of stuff, it's like these people just forget how to do solid filmmaking. And again, they telegraph it in such a way. It goes to that show me, don't tell me stuff. It's like they break all their own rules and they just tell us. It's like dun dun dun, and all of them are just sort of all lined up in a row for a big class photo. And again, it's like, but like again, like they did something similar in Infinity War, where it was the Black Widow fighting, and then there just happened to be two other female superheroes with her fighting at the same time, and it totally worked. They didn't have to say something like, "She has help," dun dun dun, dun, and all of them line up to form this pose. So, like, again, they know how to do this stuff. I don't get why once you make a decision, we want to highlight our female characters, that you just forget the whole show don't tell thing. Like, and it's the moment, again, takes you out of the film for a second because you realize you're watching something that is on the nose. So like I said, I promise I'll keep it short like that. I just don't get why they, again, just forget the tenets of filmmaking and they posture in a way for these kinds of things. It's like, I get what you want to do, and I have no problem with you doing it. You want to highlight, look at all the great female superhero characters we have. No problem. I've been saying for years, we already have these great characters, so I don't know why you're acting like we don't. So the point is well made. The point is well taken, but not well made, because again, you stop the action and pose for a photo. Awkward. Just awkward.
Honestly, I didn't have a problem with that. I did have a problem with the fact that Mantis was there. What the hell would she do?
Hey, she counts. She was almost the way they single-handedly took down Thanos in the first one.
I just kind of feel like, what is she going to do? Just kind of like, go up to people, sleep. All it takes is one lucky shot and she's down. She has no moves.
Well, I mean, honestly, if that one of the things I notice, now that you mention it, Scott Lang is standing by the window when the missile strikes. There are moments in these films sometimes, right? It's like, you guys forget that these guys don't even have powers. Like, if you shoot a rocket at Ant-Man, he's going to be dead.
Well, what's your for consideration then?
Again, I could, to quote a great character, I could do this all day. There's so many great things in this film.
I know.
Right. Oh my God, what a great line. There's so many good things in this film, so many good characters, and again, I love how it's really sort of the old school, the main characters that really they focused on in this one. Mm-hmm. Captain America gets a conclusion, Iron Man gets a conclusion, Thor gets a big story arc. They really focused on the heavy hitters for this one because, again, I think they know that a lot of these other supporting players are going to get to do other things or whatever. But the one I really, really, I think enjoyed the most, that I just wanted to sort of spotlight, was how Captain America got his conclusion.
Yeah.
I found that to be just so incredibly heartwarming. And again, they did it in a way that, honestly, I can't imagine any other scenario that you literally would have given Steve Rogers pause to just enjoy the life he always wanted. Because this is a guy who can't, again, he hears trouble, he can't sit still. You put him in the only situation where he knows very well, if he just stays put and doesn't do anything, things will resolve themselves. If I do something, it's like Russian roulette now. So you not only did you give him a wonderful send-off, a wonderful heartwarming conclusion, something that just gave you such satisfaction to actually see, but you actually did it in a way that made perfect sense. That was literally unchallengeable. You know, that this character would be able to do this. So I really had to give the writers credit for that.
I will, dude, you know me, huge Cap fan, so you know I was all over that. But actually, I'm going to give the shout out to Robert Downey Jr., who closes out his Marvel career in, I feel, a perfect way. He acted the ever-living hell out of this movie. I loved his nuance. I loved his little moments with his daughter. I love him 3000.
Nicely said.
So I'm giving it to him for this one because he made me cry, and I'm so glad that this movie got his career back on that these movies got his career back on track.
Yeah, absolutely.
This guy was dead in the water before this series.
I saw some memes floating around Facebook about, you know, some of the classic shots of Robert Downey Jr., like the old mug shots. And they said, this is a guy, he was a mess, he was this, he was that, he was down, and he got his shit together, he pulled it together, and look at him now. Like, look at, like, he has come so far, like, that used to be all he was known for.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Just drugs, being a mess. He's come so far that I don't think anybody, especially younger people, have no idea. They just know him as a massively successful actor, and just what an all around, like you said, all around great guy, well known for standing up for people, you know, for other actors who face problems, and he does not take the spotlight from other people. He's incredibly humble, and just an all around, just a magnificent person.
Yep. You know, enjoy your retirement, Tony Stark, as it were.
I like I like what we came up with. I like that I went with Cap and you went with Iron Man, and we together really, you know, shine the spotlight where it should be.
I agree. I thought that was it's like Endgame. There's a poetry to it. Everything had its beginning and end. You know, everything had its moment of antithesis. They juxtaposed characters around. They got arcs. And even we got our arc. Because I was always Team Cap, and here I am defending Iron Man, and check you out.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, my goodness, my goodness. It really, you know, I'm almost sad. I am honestly almost sad that this is a big chapter that has come to a close.
I'm almost sad that we're an hour and 20 minutes into this damn show, and I still feel like we haven't covered it all.
It is very true. It is very true. Like I said earlier, I said we could have done 2 episodes on this movie.
Maybe we should have. But instead, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting a whole new series next week.
Yeah, big change of pace.
This is going to be fun. I think this could be fun, though, because next week we're starting John Wick.
That's right. Getting ready for John Wick 3. So we're starting the series with John Wick and then John Wick 2.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, this will be a good one. And boy, again, a rapid shift of gears here.
Yeah, just a tad. And this is the rest of the summer, man. We're going to be having a bunch of new movies as we go through the summer. We really gummed up the schedule this year, didn't we?
Well, I mean, it wasn't our fault. I mean, how many films came out that they decided to change the release dates? And I mean, it's all over the place, really.
Seriously. We'll figure it out.
In fact, you're actually reminding me. I really should go back and double check because some of them, Dark Phoenix, like I'm not even sure. Is that still coming out the same day we put it down for? I mean, there's a couple that moved around, so I should really double check and be sure.
Yeah, we should definitely take a look at that. So, end of an era, dude. Freaking phenomenal review. I can't believe we did this is our first all movie review, I think.
Yeah. I think you're right.
So until next time, sir, have a good night.
Another good one, my friend. See you next week. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube for spoiler-free reviews of new releases. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page on patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.
With this Infinity Gauntlet, I, Thanos, will rule the universe!
All right, squaddies, time to hero up! When the bad guys are out, all you have to do is shout.